we're going to look at asynchronous JavaScript in Node.js. So the two worlds is synchronous versus asynchronous. Right, so again, welcome back to the core of Node.js. So imagine you have two tasks. First task, you read the contents of the large file, it takes 5 seconds, and then you need to do a quick calculation which takes 1 second. Now when it comes to synchronous, the sync execution, in synchronous world, tasks are done one after another. Like start reading the file, wait 5 seconds, and then file reading is done, start the calculation, wait 1 second, calculation is done. Total time 66 seconds. So the program is blocked and it can't do anything else while it waits for the long task to finish. Now when it comes to asynchronous, async execution, this is the Node superpower. You can start a long task and immediately move to the other thing. Start reading the file, this will take 5 seconds, but we don't have to wait. And then immediately start the calculation, wait 1 second, calculation is done, and then 4 seconds later the file reading finishes and Node tells us that, hey, that file you asked for is ready. And then total time 5 seconds. So the program was not blocked, it was able to do other work while the long input output operation was happening in the background. So this is why Node.js is so efficient, or rather the three ways to handle the asynchronity. So how do we tell our code what to do after the long task is finished? There are three main patterns for this in Node. We'll look at the three using we'll actually look at all three using FS, file system module. And then pattern one, the callback. The callback is a function that you provide as an argument to another function which gets called back when the operation completes. Now let's do a simple example. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a file. So new item. So this new item, and then we call it test. Test.txt. Alright, and then what we're gonna do, we're gonna just put some text on it, like some text on it, like maybe something like this is a test, a file for our async lesson. Then we're gonna create a new file called async demo. So let's create a new file called async demo .js. Alright, so in this file, what we need to import fs from fs. Console.log, and we can just say starting. The fs.read file is asynchronous, so the first argument is the file, will be the file to read, and then the second argument is the encoding, and then the third argument is the callback function. So meaning we'll have fs.read file, so that is asynchronous, and then the name of the file is test.txt, and then the second argument is going to be the encoding, which is utf-8, and then the third argument is going to be the callback. So this function only runs after the file has been read. Okay, so if error console.error maybe we can just say oh no, and error occurred, and then we can pass the actual error. And then the file has been read, and then the contents, and then we're gonna actually be continuing with the program. Console.log, and then we just continuing with the program, continuing with the rest of the program. And then we're just gonna run this. And then we can actually see the reading of the file. So we see this in this order, starting the program and then continuing with the rest of the program. And then you can see where that line is of continuing with the rest of the program, but meaning it was reading the file while the rest of the program was actually continuing. So, but notice how 2 is printed before 3. So this proves that the code didn't wait for the read file to actually finish. Callbacks can get messy if you have many nested asynchronous operations. So this is called a callback hell. So promises were actually introduced to clean up this up. Now a promise is an object that represents the eventual completion or a failure of an asynchronous operation. So it can be in one of the 3 states, whether pending, so there's the initial stage, the operation hasn't finished yet, or fulfilled, the operation completed successfully, or rejected, the operation failed. You can handle these states with then for success and then catch for failure. Now in our example we can actually change this. Let's say we can change the import change. Let's just do something like that. So I'm gonna just say here promises as fs, and then from fs. So here what we can do, we can say fs to read file, and then here we just gonna say then. Okay, let's just put this in the next line, and then we can just say dot then, and then data. Actually we must just do it like this, and then data, right? And then we can just take okay, let me just remove everything because now this looks weird. Let's just remove everything. All right, so it's better now. So this runs, so let's say console dot log, so this is number 3. So the file has been read. So this runs if the promise is fulfilled, meaning if it's success. And then we need to catch the error. So we're going to say dot catch. Now the output will exactly be the same, but the code structure is actually configured, considered cleaner and easier to chain together. Now what is then there is a modern way using async and await. So this is the most modern and readable way to write asynchronous code. So it's just synthetic sugar on top of the promises, meaning it does the same thing, but it lets you write async code that looks synchronous. So you use async keyword to declare a function that contains asynchronous operation, and a wait keyword to pause the function execution until promise is cycled. All right, now let's do this the last time. So I'm just gonna maybe remove the whole thing here. And here we can just say async function read a file. Now the await, then we can have const data is await, it pauses the function until the fs.read file is done. .read file, which is text test.txt. Then encoding is UTF-8. And then it wraps the promise, giving us the data directly. So the errors are actually awaited promises are caught by the try-catch block. Console.log. Actually, we're looking for what's going on here. Let's just remove this. Should be console.error, and we can just say, oh no, an error CAD. And then what we need to do, then we can just call the read file async function. So this will actually this code outside of the async function will continue. All right, so we can run it again, and you can actually see that it's still continuing with the rest of the program. Node.js is built around the async model for maximum efficiency. So we handle the results of async operations using three main patterns: the callbacks, meaning the original pattern, passing a function as an argument, and then promises, an object representing a future result handled with then and catch. And then async and await, it's a modern syntax that makes asynchronous promises based code looks clean and synchronous. So now you understand the absolute core concepts that makes Node special. So this is a deep topic, but just understanding it is a key to unlocking everything else in the Node.js.